I like to promote different playstyles because if we all played what was best, then we'd all be playing the same thing. And as much as I like to express myself through gameplay and decision making, being virtuoso number 5 doesn't really excite me to play the game. Willbender is a great DPS option for endgame Guild Wars 2 PvE because it has great survivability, so it doesn't fall over when things get rough. It's simple to play, so you get similar results even when you can't tunnel vision on your rotation, and it's extremely mobile to allow you to handle mechanics swiftly and then get back to your job. So I'll go over the Condition Willbender build for strikes and raids, the equipment, traits, skill priorities, and situational reactions. The equipment I take is dependent on a couple things. At least 80% of your damage will come from burning, so condition duration is only important for burning, and condition damage is your most important stat by far. Also, your condition damage stat will be increased by vitality, so technically the way to get the highest amount of condition damage is through carrion gear, but of course having precision is going to give you a little bit more damage because you need it to trigger traits, and you can also get power damage. So we'll mix carrion, sinister, and viper gear. We get our burning duration from the Balthazar rune, which will also increase our maximum health by 10%, and then the smoldering sigil and radiance traits will get us to 90% burning duration without any stats. Using affordable condition damage food will get you another 100 expertise or 6.66% more burning duration, putting you at 96.6%. So you can get an Ascended Viper's headpiece and an Ascended Viper's gloves, and that will put you at 100% burning duration. Then the rest you can put into Sinister and Carrion. You don't need any more than 30% crit chance because Fury and the Radiance traits will boost you to high enough crit chance that you'll be able to trigger your traits. With a decent amount of Carrion, a tier 10 Jade Bot, and Balthazar runes, you have over 20,000 health, which in comparison to any other DPS class is quite tanky, and your damage is going to be very comparable to if you had run a full glass stat set. You're going to want a sword and scepter with the smoldering sigils, and a torch with the bursting sigil. For traits, I take the sword and torch traits because they are your main weapons. You get a second torch 4 triggered from critting, and torch 4 is one of your highest damage abilities, so you always want to have access to torch skills to use them when they trigger. You can take absolute resolve in virtues because it gives cleansing to your allies, and the inspiring virtue doesn't really add that much damage because it only increases your strike damage, which you don't really do much of. As a Willbender, you get passive effects when activating your F ability virtues. The main one we'll be using is the F1, which passively burns enemies. The more instances of strike damage that you deal, the more this will trigger. Permeating Wrath will reduce the amount of hits required to trigger this effect, and will also make it hit in an area, so when hitting multiple enemies, this build scales up greatly. Also, whenever you trigger the burning from virtues, you will reduce the cooldown of your weapon skills, including your most important weapon skill, Torch 4, and you will gain stacks of lethal tempo, which stack up damage modifiers. To constantly keep up this damage modifier, you need to be constantly hitting enemies while you have one of your virtues activated, usually your F1. However, lethal tempo falls off quickly, and then you have to get all the stacks up again. Activating any of your virtues will grant a stack of lethal tempo and refresh the entire stack. So if you're waiting to start hitting things, you can keep up or precast your stacks of lethal tempo by using the F2 or F3. The F3 can be a nice port to move out of mechanics. The F2 is a quick evade, so they're nice for surviving when needed, but always make sure you recast your F1 afterwards because you want the burning activations to deal more damage. Now, if you aren't too fussed about performing optimally, I could just say use your F1, Torch 4, and Purging Flames off cooldown and you'll be set. But the fun of Willbender is optimizing the high aggression playstyle by optimizing the animations or porting out with the F3 to do a mechanic, and back in with sword 2 to get in and stick to your target with all the mobility you have access to. So if you don't want to play lazily and want to optimize your damage output, since that's your main role with this build anyways, you'll want to understand a priority. Purging Flames and Torch 4 deal the most damage out of all of your skills, but your F1 gives you all the damage modifiers and cooldown reduction on Torch 4, as well as added burning damage from the Willbender Flames. So your number one priority is to use the F1 skill first. Then you want to use Purging Flames because this does the most damage and gives you a fire field. You can use your Whirling Light in this fire field to get burning bolts, which would give extra burning. Just make sure that the boss is not going to move out of your Purging Flames, or you're going to lose a lot of your damage. Also, you want to use your Torch 4 before Whirling Light. However, the cooldown of Torch 4 begins as soon as the first pulsing burning part is activated. Because the first part is an instant cast skill, it means you can use it while casting other skills and then delay using the second part for as long as you need to use the other high priority skills. You can get full value from both parts of the Torch 4 skill, but also get other skills out earlier to progress their cooldowns faster without waiting for the entire animation of your Torch 4. However, since you have 2 Torch 4s to cast, you will often want to cast the one that you get from critting from the Radiance passive as soon as possible so that you can activate the actual Torch 4 skill and get both cooldowns going. In other words, you don't want to delay finishing the cast of your Torch 4 if it will delay the activation of your second Torch 4. When all of these are on cooldown, you want to use the lowest investment multi-hitting attacks to trigger the Virtue passive. Sword 2 is almost instant and hits 5 times, so use this first. Sword 3 is a bit of a cast, but it hits 8 times, so use this second. Torch 5 hits 10 times and does a decent burn as well at the end, but it takes a while to cast, so only use this when you can't use anything else, and it won't delay using any of your more important skills. If you use your Sword 2 to get in melee, you can remove the animation of your Rushing Justice F1, so sometimes it is better to use your Sword 2 first, just so that you can get into your combo faster. Even your sword auto attack has some nice multi-hitting potential on the third strike. Only swap to Scepter if you need to attack from range, or use the Immobilize on the 3. So if we're to create an opening burst rotation, it would be to precast F3 and F2 if you have time to, F1, Purging Flames, throw the first Torch 4 so you can activate the second Torch 4, Whirling Light, throw the second Torch 4, Sword 2, Sword 3, Torch 5, and then from there your F1 is going to be up again, and then you want to be using a normal skill priority of use the F1, Purging Flames, Torch 4, Whirling Light, Sword 2, Sword 3, Torch 5. Make sure to always use the first instant part of Torch 4 even if you're casting other skills, and then try to delay the casting of the second part for a window of time when no other skills are off cooldown. This lets you optimize your animations to get as many skills used in as little time as possible. This is the Zhenlai Junkyard strike mission on challenge mode. As a Guardian, you can provide a lot of utility to your team by taking the Stand Your Ground for stability, Sanctuary for CC, if your team really needs it, but in this case, I've gone for full DPS utilities, and in this encounter, Ankka will jump around and dodge a lot, so you want to make sure that you do not waste your abilities into a place where, the boss is moving out of. So wait until the boss moves and then use your Purging Flames, otherwise you'll waste your highest damaging ability. And we want to stay in melee range for a lot of this fight, not only because the boss moves around a lot, but because pretty much in every fight, you want to be close to the targets that you're doing damage to, since your Torch 4 will passively pulse burning in a point blank around you. So staying in melee range is really important, But in situations like this where you can't stay in melee or you'll die, you kind of just need to save your Torch 4, even though you kind of want to get that cooldown going out. Use it a little bit early and then get some value from the pulses. And now the Quaggins are spawning, so we need to move around, which is unfortunate because we can't go in melee during this time. And as soon as I'm able to go in melee, I use my sword 2 to port in. My Purging Flames goes out as soon as the boss moves away. And now we can just do our burst. And one thing that is kind of nice is this is a bursty condition build. And that means that if you land your burst and then you have to do some mechanic afterwards, you can do that and get some value on your cooldowns, whereas some other builds kind of require you to be constantly hitting the target to be doing your damage. So the difference between like hitting a DPS golem that doesn't have any mechanics and an actual boss. This build is going to perform pretty well in an actual scenario. So we're going to use our Signet of Wrath here, as well as the Heavenly Palm to CC. Generally, you don't want to use your Signet of Wrath because you don't want to lose a condition damage bonus, but in a situation where all you can do is CC, you kind of need to use it, especially because the win condition is heavily dependent on you landing all the CCs. So the Immobilize from the Signet of Wrath there can be nice. I use my Purging Flames there after the boss moves, and we've got to cleave out all of these Zaitan's reaches because they'll do a lot of CC to our team, and this build is really good at doing AoE because of the Permeating Wrath. So yeah, we can if we really wanted to cleave them out, but we're kind of in between them, so it's kind of reliant on our team to just stand really tight on the boss here and not get CC'd, and we're just going to do damage. So the next hallucination that comes out, we'll want to be a little bit mindful of it. We've actually got the pull mechanic from the boss, and we do not want to use the Purging Flames here because the boss is just moving around a lot, so we're just going to save all of our cooldowns, and then as soon as it stops, we can use all of our ports and movement to get back on the boss and start doing damage again. And the boss gets CC'd here, so we want to do a lot of burst. We've pretty much used everything, so we're going to use our, yeah, we've got everything on cooldown at this point, so we're just going to auto attack and hopefully get our cooldowns up faster. I'm going to save my Purging Flames here. The boss does use their jump, and I didn't save the Purging Flames. So yeah, I should have saved the Purging Flames there, but the boss moved out, and that's going to be a pretty big loss of DPS because I wasted my Purging Flames essentially. And I actually went in there early too, so I get down by the Quaggins. The boss phases before we get it to 40%, so we have to CC again, and I'm going to use my Heavenly Palm and my Signet of Wrath as well. I see that the Reanimated Malice is coming over here, and since I'm pretty much out of CC other than like blind and weakness, I just want to focus on that so that it doesn't immobilize one of my teammates, and we're just going to finish off the last few percent of the boss and then head to the final room for the last phase. So on this last phase, there's quite a bit of pressure on your team, and they have to split up a lot, and when your party splits, they get hit by the poison volley, and that really taxes your team of their health. So using the Torch 5 is really good here for cleansing your allies. Obviously Purging Flames will cleanse as well, and of course using your mobility to survive yourself. So you need to stand in these white circles of these crystals, get the buff there, and then you can go and DPS the boss. Usually a ranged class is nice to do that, but you want to stand on melee of the boss because the boss will do the poison volley if someone is at range. So it's really important that you are in melee, and this build is really good at going out to do a mechanic, getting that buff so you don't take the passive pulsing damage during this phase, and then getting back on the boss using the sword 2 and maintaining our DPS uptime as a result. Now, someone goes down on the far crystal. I use my F3 to port to them so I can get the revive, and then I move back in, but it's time to do the CC. I use my immobilizes and my elite. I actually don't use my signet, I just use the scepter 3 there, and then I immediately go to do damage to the reanimated antipathy because I'm pretty much out of CC anyways, and we need damage at that point to prevent the mob there from destroying our safe zones. So now we're gonna wait for the boss probably to move. We actually didn't, but Purging Flames goes out and the boss doesn't move, so we didn't get punished there. And we're gonna keep maintaining our damage using the skill priority here, using our torch abilities whenever they're ready. And the boss is gonna move away now. I don't want to use my Purging Flames until the boss stops moving, and then we're gonna port over to them, use our Purging Flames, and do our burst. So yeah, the boss gets CC'd here, so they're gonna take extra damage as well. So we want to just pop everything as soon as possible, not worry too much about getting value. And then the boss is gonna move here, so it's a good time to use Purging Flames when it's up in a couple seconds. And we've got the crate, so we're gonna back off. And normally, yeah, I kind of went a little greedy there to use my melee abilities first, but you can kind of do that as a Willbender because you have so much mobility. Like if a mechanic is about to happen, most people will get out immediately, but as a Willbender, you can stay in longer because you know that you can port out immediately and then port back in immediately as well. So that kind of like aggressive, risky playstyle can pretty much be rewarded on Willbender if you use your virtues correctly. And now the boss is going to move. We use our Purging Flames. This is going to cleanse our team pretty well. And I've got the mechanic again, so I move away and try to place that away from the group. It wasn't placed amazingly, to be honest, but it'll do because the last 3% of the boss, you just got to do a bit more damage and not die to these Quaggins. 1% left, and we're pretty much going to get the kill. So that is pretty much how you play the Condi Willbender. If you like this content, then like the video, subscribe for more, and I will see you all next time.